Hi, in this video we're going to cover the next 4 tips to save time in answering percentage related questions in a math test. Those 4 tips are going to be as easy as the previous 2 tips that we've covered in the previous video. So let's get started. Tip number 3. When the total percentage is split, the sum of sub-percentages should always equal to 100%. Let's have a look at the question we've got here. There was 42 students in a class. If 45% were girls, what is the percentage of boys? If we look at the tree, so 42 is the number of students we've got in the class. The representation of 42 is 100%. This percentage is going to split into 2 groups. In a class, you either have a group of girls or a group of boys. So if the representation of girls in the class equals to 45%, then what is the representation of boys in the same class? Using the tip above, the sum of sub-percentages should always equal to 100%. This means if we add the percentage of girls to the percentage of the boys, that should equal to 100%. So 100% equals to 45% plus the percentage of boys. This means the percentage of boys should equal to 100% take away 45%, which is equal to 55%. Now let's have a look at the next question. If 25% of the horses in our farm were brown colour, what is the percentage of non-brown horses? Pause the video and work out the percentage of these non-brown horses. Correct, it's going to be 75%. And that's because in our farm we're going to split the horses into 2 groups only, either brown colour or non-brown colour. So this means the sum of the percentages of the brown colour horses and the non-brown colour horses should equal to 100%. So non-brown colour horses represents 75% of the number of horses we've got in our farm, which is equal to 100% take away 25%. Now let's move on to tip number 4. The sum of all sub-percentages should always equal to 100%. In some questions, you will find that the percentage will split into more than just 2 groups. Just bear in mind that the addition of all these sub-percentages should always equal to 100%. Now let's have a look at this question. A class has 30 students. 60% have brown-coloured eyes, 30% have green-coloured eyes, and the rest have blue-coloured eyes. What's the percentage of boys with blue-coloured eyes? So in this question, we're splitting the number of students into 3 groups. So we're splitting the percentage 100% into 3 groups. Now the representation of green-coloured eyes in the class equals to 30%. The brown-coloured eyes equals to 60%. What is the representation of blue-coloured eyes students in the class? Pause the video and have a go at it. Using the tip above, the sum of all sub-percentages should always equal to 100%. In this question, the sub-percentages we have are the green-coloured eyes students, blue-coloured eyes, and the brown-coloured eyes. So if we add the percentage of green-coloured eyes with the percentage of the blue-coloured eyes and the percentage of the brown-coloured eyes, that should give me 100%. So in this case, 100% equals to 30% plus 60% plus the percentage of students with blue-coloured eyes. This means the blue-coloured eyes percentage equals to 100% take away 90%, which is equal to 10%. Tip number 5. Define which percentage to use in your formula or to answer your question. In some of the questions, you will be given different details about the groups you have. So what you need to do is define which part of your tree that you need to work with to answer your question. Let's clarify this point using the question below. A class has 40% boys. If there are 24 girls in the class, then how many children are in the class? So in this question, we clearly have got only 2 groups, boys and girls. The representation of the boys in the class equals to 40%, whereas the question has given us the number of girls in the class. So you can't see the representation of girls in the class in the question. But using the previous tip, we should be able to find this detail easily. So now we know, using tip number 3, that the percentage of girls in the class should equal to 100%, take away 40%, and that should equals to 60%. So now we know that the percentage of girls in the class is equals to 60% and number of girls in the class is equal to 24. So it would be a lot easier for us to take this part of the tree to work with, which is on the right hand side, to find out the total number of students in the class. Now we know that 60% of the total number of students equals to 24. Using Now let's have a look at another question. A class has 30 students. 60% have brown-colored eyes, 30% have green-colored eyes, and the rest have blue-colored eyes. How many? The question stated the green-colored eyes percentage and the brown-colored eyes percentage, but not the blue-colored eyes. Yes, correct. It is 10%. But the question is not asking for the representation of the blue-colored eyes. Can you work out the number of boys with blue-colored eyes in the Using tip number 3, we now know that the percentage of the students with blue-colored eyes is equal to 10%. Now the next thing we're going to look at is define the percentage to use to answer the question. So we're going to use the part of the blue-colored eye. The last tip we're going to cover in this video is tip number 6. Always check the total as an amount or percentage is larger than the amount or percentage of each part. Always check your answers after your calculations. Yes, you will be pressured with time during the test, but you can check your answers smartly without going through your calculations. Checking your answers will give you confidence with your numbers, especially if you have other sections in the same questions that are dependent on your answer. Now let's have a look at our final question. A class has 30% boys. If there are 12 boys in the class, then how many children are in the class? Pause the video and have a go. Using tip number 3, now we know that the representation of girls in the class should equal to 70%. But the question clearly stated the percentage of boys in the class and the number of boys in the class. So it would be a lot easier for us to use the section of the boys to work out the total number of students in the class. This means that 30% of the number of students in the class should equal to 12. Using tip number 1, that means 0.3 times t equals to 12. So t equals to 12 divided by 0.3, which is equal to 120 divided by 3. This means the total number of students in the class should equal to 40. Now, based on tip number 6, we should always check our answer. Without going through the calculations, you should be able to tell that 40 is bigger than 12. So the total number of students should always be bigger than the number of boys in the class and the number of girls in the class separately. So 40 is bigger than 12, which seems to be the correct answer. If you want to see more of similar videos, then like my video or subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you wish to see similar videos of a particular topic, then send me a comment. If you want to move on to the next video, then you can click on Tips to Saving Time in Math Test Percentages Part 3.